On the morning of my wedding, my phone lit up with a text from my best man. Your parents are already here. Front row. My stomach dropped. I hadn't seen those people in 15 years, and I made it clear I never wanted to. My fiancée knew that. She invited them anyway, as a surprise. I'm Jordan, 33, from Ohio, and last weekend I was supposed to marry Emily, 29. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for 1, and I thought we understood each other better than anyone. Especially when it came to my family, or rather, the lack thereof. See, I cut my parents out of my life when I was 18. My dad was an angry drunk who believed in teaching lessons with his fists. My mom either looked away or told me I deserved it. I built my entire adult life without them. No calls, no visits, no birthday cards, nothing. From day one of wedding planning, I told Emily one non-negotiable. They are not invited. She asked why only once, and I told her. Not the sanitized version, details. The hospital visits. The police who couldn't do anything. The way my mom drove me home from the ER, like it was no big deal. Emily said she understood. She even promised she'd keep that boundary for me. But last Thursday, 2 days before the wedding, I overheard her in the kitchen with her maid of honor. The maid whispered, "Are you sure he's going to be okay with you-know-who?" Emily giggled nervously. "It's going to be the perfect surprise. He'll forgive them. He'll thank me someday." I stepped in. "Forgive who?" Both froze like kids caught stealing cookies. Her friend mumbled an excuse and bolted. Emily finally admitted it. She'd been secretly messaging my mother for weeks. She wanted to heal old wounds by having my parents at the wedding. She thought I'd see them, break down in happy tears, and we'd all hug it out in front of 100 guests. She called it a hallmark moment. I called it betrayal. We fought for hours. I reminded her that I'd rather burn the venue down than let those people watch me get married. She kept saying, "They're still your family, and you'll regret shutting them out forever." I left, stayed at my best man's apartment, ignored her texts, half apologies, half justifications. Saturday morning, I woke up thinking maybe she'd pulled the plug on her little plan. Then I got that text from my best man. My parents had arrived early, dressed like they owned the place. My mom apparently told the coordinator she couldn't wait to see her boy finally become a man. I sat in my car in the parking lot of a gas station for 2 hours, staring at my tux hanging in the back seat. My chest felt like it was caving in. Every part of me wanted to walk into that church and scream. Instead, I drove away. I didn't go home. I didn't even tell Emily I wasn't coming. Instead, I drove to a little diner off the interstate, ordered black coffee, and stared at the wedding ring box in my hand until my fingers went numb. At 4:15 p.m., 15 minutes after the ceremony was supposed to start, my phone started vibrating nonstop. I ignored it, but then a message popped up from an unknown number. It was a photo. Emily, still in her wedding dress, crying, mascara streaked. My mother was standing right beside her, arm around her like they were old friends. My stomach turned. Then came the next text. "You don't have to do this, son. We can fix everything. Come back now before you make the biggest mistake of your life." It was from my dad. The part that made my hands shake wasn't the message, it was the timestamp. That photo had been taken inside the bridal suite. Somehow, my parents had gotten past her friends, past the coordinator, and into Emily's private room. And instead of being furious or telling them to leave, she let them stay. Worse, she let them comfort her. I called my best man. He whispered that the place was chaos. Guests whispering, Emily's parents panicking, my parents acting like VIPs. Apparently, my dad had already told a few people I always make dramatic scenes, and that I'd show up once I'd cooled down. That was when my best man dropped the bomb. "Jordan, your parents are telling everyone you're having a mental breakdown." That hit me like a gut punch. In one afternoon, they'd managed to rewrite the narrative, so I was the unstable groom who abandoned his poor bride without warning. I was furious. And then, I made a bad decision. I drove to the venue. Not to save the wedding. Not to see Emily. I just wanted my parents gone. I wanted to look them in the eye and make it clear this was never going to happen. When I pulled into the parking lot, guests were trickling out, looking awkward. The ceremony was officially postponed, according to the announcement Emily's father had made. I walked through the side entrance straight into the reception area and froze. There they were. My parents. Emily. Her parents. Sitting at one of the round tables, talking like they were having some kind of emergency family summit. And the moment they saw me, every head turned. My dad stood up first, all fake relief. "There's my boy, finally ready to be reasonable." Emily's eyes lit up like she thought I'd come to fix everything. "Jordan, please, let's just talk." But I wasn't there to talk. I walked straight up to the table, looked my dad dead in the eye, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You were never invited. You will never be part of my life. Get out." The room went dead silent. My mom tried to play the victim, started crying, clutching her pearls like she was in some bad soap opera. My dad muttered something under his breath about me being an ungrateful embarrassment. And then, because apparently the day hadn't hit peak insanity, Emily's father stood up and said, "Jordan, I understand you have issues with them, but they're here now, and leaving your bride over this is unacceptable." That's when I realized this wasn't just Emily's doing. Her family had been in on it. I laughed. Couldn't help it. So this whole thing was a setup? My boundaries were just some cute little challenge for you all to break? Emily's mom spoke up, voice trembling but firm. Every child should have their parents at their wedding. My voice cracked when I replied, "Not when those parents are the reason you still wake up from nightmares 20 years later." For a second, I thought I saw Emily's face shift, like she finally got it. But then my dad scoffed loudly, breaking the moment. And that's when it happened. The wedding photographer, yes, still there, snapped a picture of the table. All of us in mid-argument. And I realized this whole mess was about to be immortalized, probably in some family album that would get passed around for decades. I turned and walked out without another word. But as I reached the door, I heard my dad say, "Don't worry. He'll come crawling back. He always does." That was the last straw. I knew in that moment, this wasn't just about a ruined wedding anymore. It was war. By Sunday morning, the explosion had gone nuclear. My phone was blowing up, not just from friends or Emily, but from numbers I didn't even recognize. Turns out, one of Emily's cousins had recorded part of the reception showdown on her phone. And because this is the internet age, she posted it to Facebook with the caption, "The groom lost it at the wedding. Unreal drama." By the time I woke up, it had over 2,000 shares. The video showed me storming up to the table, pointing at my parents, and telling them to get out, while my mom cried and my dad looked wounded. It didn't include the part where they ambushed Emily in the bridal suite or called me unstable. Without context, I looked like a heartless jerk humiliating his loving parents on his wedding day. The comments section was a dumpster fire. Strangers calling me an ungrateful brat. People tagging Emily, telling her she dodged a bullet. Someone even wrote, "This guy needs therapy, not a wife." It was like my father had scripted it. His favorite game, make me the villain. And now, thanks to social media, his performance had gone viral. I wanted to crawl under a rock. Instead, I went to my best man's apartment, again, and found him at the kitchen table scrolling on his phone. He looked up and said, "Man, you're trending." Not the good kind of trending. And then he dropped another bomb. Apparently, my parents had given a short interview to a local news outlet that covered quirky wedding disasters. They'd painted themselves as heartbroken, estranged parents who had flown in at the last minute, hoping to surprise their son, only to be publicly disowned in front of everyone. My dad claimed he didn't know what went wrong, and that there had to be some misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? He'd spent my entire childhood making sure I understood exactly where I stood, with a broken rib or a black eye as a reminder. I was shaking with anger when Emily texted again. This time, it wasn't an apology. It was a warning. "Jordan, my parents are talking to yours. They want to meet tomorrow. They think they can fix this." Fix this? My parents and hers conspiring together? I could barely wrap my head around it. I called her. She actually answered. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. "Please, just come to the meeting. We can talk it out like adults." I laughed bitterly. "Emily, you're still doing it. You're still trying to orchestrate some fairy tale reunion. Do you not see how far this has gone?" She hesitated. I can't stand the thought of you regretting this forever." My chest tightened. "The only thing I regret is trusting you." And I hung up. That night, I got an unexpected visitor. It was my Aunt Lisa, my dad's sister. I hadn't seen her in years, mostly because she lived halfway across the country and we never had much contact. She showed up at my best man's place looking uncomfortable but determined. "I had to see you," she said, sitting down. "Your parents are telling everyone you had some kind of breakdown. But I believe you." I stared at her, unsure where this was going. She explained that she'd cut ties with my father years ago too, for her own reasons. And then she handed me something, a small USB drive. "You might need this," she said. Inside the folder on that drive, photos, hospital reports, even an old police record from when I was 14. She'd apparently kept copies of everything she'd been able to find before she left town. "In case you ever needed proof," she told me. I didn't know whether to thank her or break down crying. By midnight, I'd made a decision. If my parents wanted to drag my name through the mud publicly, fine. I'd bring the truth out into the light. I called Emily one last time. She didn't pick up. Left her a message. "Tomorrow, when you meet with my parents, you might want to ask them about March 17th, 2006. Ask them what the cops found in our basement." and ask why they told the neighbors I fell off my bike. I didn't sleep that night. Monday morning, my phone buzzed at 7 a.m. It was Emily. Her voice was shaky, almost panicked. "Jordan, what happened in 2006? I didn't answer the question. Instead, I said, "Now you know why I walked away from that altar, and why I'm walking away from you." And I hung up. But the day wasn't done throwing curveballs. 2 hours later, I got an email from a journalist. Yes, the same one who'd interviewed my parents. He'd heard there was another side to the story and wanted to talk. It was tempting. Dangerous, but tempting. Because if I opened my mouth, the world was about to hear everything. By noon, I was sitting in the corner booth of the same diner where I'd spent my wedding day, laptop open, Aunt Lisa's USB drive plugged in. The folder was worse than I'd imagined. Police reports. Photos of bruises in the shape of knuckles. Medical notes with phrases like suspected abuse and child fearful of returning home. My dad's DUI arrest record. A restraining order Lisa had taken out years later. The kind of stuff no one could twist into misunderstanding. At first, I just stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to keep it private. Another part, the part that had sat through years of my father's rage and my mother's cold silence, wanted to make sure no one ever saw them as victims again. That second part won. I didn't post it outright. I sent everything to the journalist, along with a message. "You wanted the other side? Here it is. Publish it. All of it." He replied within minutes. "I'll verify the documents, but this changes everything." I closed the laptop and ordered another coffee. That's when my phone rang. Emily. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was low, like she was afraid someone was listening. "Jordan, my parents, they're furious. At me." I almost laughed. "Why? Because their little reunion blew up in their faces?" She hesitated. "Because I told them what you said about 2006. They asked your parents. They didn't deny it. They just told my family I was gullible for believing old stories." I felt a cold satisfaction. "Now you know who they are." She exhaled shakily. "They're still here. At my parents' house. My mom thinks you're trying to ruin all of us. My dad says you should just let it go." I told her to get them out of her life before they did to her what they'd done to me. She didn't answer. That night, the article went live. The headline was brutal. "Groom who abandoned bride at the altar speaks out. My parents are my abusers." It had screenshots of police reports, quotes from Aunt Lisa, and details about my father's arrests. The reporter didn't sugarcoat a thing. And best of all, it included a line that made me almost laugh out loud. The groom's fiancée confirmed she was aware of his estrangement and the abuse allegations prior to inviting his parents. By morning, the tide on social media had turned. Strangers were deleting their nasty comments. Some even apologized. The cousin who posted the original video took it down, claiming she didn't have the full picture. But the damage was far from over. My dad left me a voicemail, pure venom. "You think you can humiliate us? You think this is over? You have no idea who you're messing with." And then Emily's mom called. Not to apologize. No, she demanded I help repair Emily's reputation, since the whole internet now knew she'd sided with my parents. I told her exactly what I thought of that idea. She hung up on me. By midday, Emily texted again. This time, it was different. No excuses. No begging. Just a single sentence. I left my parents' house. I told them I never want to see them again. I didn't know whether to believe her. But then she sent a photo. Her suitcase in the trunk of her car, the taillights of her parents' house fading in the rearview mirror. For a moment, I felt a flicker of something, maybe relief. But it was gone as fast as it came. Because no matter what she did now, the fact remained. She'd chosen to betray me when it mattered most. Still, the chaos wasn't finished. That evening, the journalist called me back. "Jordan, you need to know, another outlet wants to pick up your story. National coverage. It could go huge." And here's the kicker. He warned me that if I didn't agree, my parents were already lining up an exclusive with a rival network. Meaning the smear campaign would go nationwide if I stayed silent. It was the same trap as always. Speak and be labeled vindictive, or stay quiet and let them rewrite history. This time, I wasn't sure which choice would destroy me more. By Tuesday morning, I had 3 missed calls from the journalist and 1 from an unknown New York number. I didn't need to answer to know what it was about. The national coverage offer. Part of me wanted to vanish. Change my number. Let the story die. But then I imagined my dad sitting in some TV studio, telling millions of viewers how his mentally unstable son ruined a perfect wedding. And Emily sitting beside him, nodding like she had the day she let them into her bridal suite. No, not again. I called the New York number back. It was a producer from a primetime news program. She was warm, polite, almost too careful with her words. "Jordan, Your story is powerful, she said. If you're willing, we'd like to give you the chance to tell it in your own words, on air. I told her I'd think about it. The next call I made was to Aunt Lisa. If I do this, they'll come after me harder than ever. She didn't hesitate. Then we do it together. That afternoon, Emily showed up at my best man's apartment. No warning. Just knocked on the door, holding a grocery bag with 2 coffees. She looked smaller somehow. Not the confident woman I'd agreed to marry, but someone worn down. I left my parents for good, she said before I could speak. I booked an Airbnb. I'm on my own now. I didn't invite her in right away. She shifted awkwardly. Jordan, I know I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know, I see it now. All of it. I believed them because I didn't want to believe you could hate your parents for a good reason. I was wrong. It should have felt satisfying. It didn't. Emily, I said, do you realize it's not just about them showing up? You planned it. You coordinated it. You gave them the power to humiliate me, again. And now you want me to believe you've cut them off because it's convenient? Her eyes welled. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to let me help you. If you go public, I'll back you. I'll tell the truth about what happened. That stopped me. Because whether I wanted to admit it or not, her voice could destroy my parents' credibility in seconds. She was the bride they claimed to be saving. I told her I'd think about it. By evening, the producer called again. We'd like to fly you out Thursday. But your parents have also agreed to appear. We can have you on separate segments, or you could face them. Face them. On live television. I ended the call without agreeing. But the idea lodged itself in my head. At midnight, I went for a drive. Windows down, Ohio summer air heavy with that pre-storm electricity. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat. It was a text from my dad. Saw the article. Cute. You go on TV and I'll tell them things you've been hiding. I pulled over. My hands shook, but I typed back. I have nothing to hide. You do. Minutes later, another buzz. This time, it was from Emily. I just got a call from my cousin. Your parents are telling everyone you stole money from them before you left home. That's their new angle. And just like that, I knew exactly what was coming. They'd drag up every lie they'd ever told about me. Every made-up story designed to paint me as ungrateful, reckless, dangerous. And this time, they'd broadcast it to the country. I drove back to the apartment and found Aunt Lisa still awake, scrolling through her laptop. They're moving fast, she said without looking up. If you're going to do this, you can't wait. Emily's offering to back me publicly, I admitted. Lisa gave me a long, unreadable look. That's a gift. Don't waste it. But don't let her back in your life because of it. I didn't sleep that night either. I just kept seeing the image in my head. Me sitting under the harsh studio lights, looking across a stage at the 2 people who'd spent my life trying to break me, knowing millions were watching. By morning, the decision was made. I texted the producer. Book my ticket, but I'm not doing separate segments. I want them in the room. Her reply came in less than a minute. Understood. This is going to be big. I closed my phone, sat back, and let the weight of it sink in. In 48 hours, I'd be face to face with my parents for the first time in 15 years. Not in a courtroom, not at a funeral, on live television. And this time, I wouldn't be the one walking away in silence. Thursday came too fast. The studio was colder than I expected. The lights were blinding, the stage polished like glass. I sat in the left chair, Aunt Lisa beside me. Across from us, my parents. My father in a tailored suit like he'd just stepped out of a political ad. My mother in pearls, dabbing her eyes before we'd even started. And then, they brought Emily out. The producer hadn't told me she'd be here. She looked nervous, clutching a notepad. My stomach twisted. Was she about to backpedal on me live? The host wasted no time. Jordan, this is the first time you've seen your parents in 15 years. Why today? I leaned forward, voice steady. Because for 15 years, they've told everyone I abandoned them. And last week, they tried to hijack my wedding to force their way back into my life. I'm here to tell the truth. My father chuckled, actually chuckled, into his mic. The truth? Or your version of it? I didn't flinch. Police reports don't have versions. The host turned to him. Did you abuse your son? My dad's smirk didn't waver. Absolutely not. We supported him financially until he ran off and stole. That's when Aunt Lisa cut in, slamming a manila folder on the table. These are bank statements. You want to talk about theft? Let's talk about the $42,000 Jordan's college fund that mysteriously vanished into a joint account my brother used to buy a boat. Gasped from the audience. My father's smirk faltered. I pounced. Yeah, remember that, Dad? You told me there was no money for tuition, so I had to take loans. I'm still paying those off. And you were out on Lake Erie every weekend with your buddies. My mother tried to interject. It was a family boat. I turned to her. I wasn't family by then, remember? You told people I was unfit to be around after I left, but you had no problem cashing out my college account. The host's eyes went wide. We were not aware of these documents. Can we confirm this? The producer's voice crackled in his earpiece. Verified. That's when Emily spoke. Her voice shook, but it carried. I can confirm Jordan told me about the missing college fund years ago. I didn't believe him. I thought maybe he exaggerated. But last week, I saw enough to know he didn't. I invited his parents thinking I was fixing something, but I was helping the people who stole from him. The room went silent except for the cameras clicking. My father tried one last play, anger. You think you're so righteous? You lived under my roof for 18 years. I cut him off. 18 years of hell, paid for with stolen money, and you still think you deserve a seat at my wedding. The host leaned in. Jordan, what do you want from them now? I laughed, sharp and humorless. I want nothing. Not their apologies, not their money. Oh wait, that's gone, spent on beer and fiberglass. What I want is for everyone watching to see exactly who they are, and for them to know they'll never get another dime of my time. My father muttered something into his mic, hot enough that the producers cut the feed for a second. My mother cried harder, the picture of wounded motherhood. Then Aunt Lisa delivered the final blow. One more thing. I also have the insurance claim paperwork for when their boat mysteriously sank. Payout, $47,000. Almost exactly what they took from Jordan's fund. Coincidence? The audience erupted. Some gasped, some laughed in disbelief. The host looked stunned. My parents looked like they'd swallowed nails. I stood. We're done here. The cameras followed as I walked off set. Behind me, the host tried to corral my parents into a final comment. They didn't give one. Security was already escorting them out. Outside, the summer air felt like freedom. Emily caught up with me on the sidewalk. Jordan, wait. I know you can't forgive me, but I hope someday you can believe I was trying to help, even if I did it the worst way possible. I didn't promise her anything, just nodded and walked away, the city noise swallowing the moment. By nightfall, clips from the segment were everywhere. Headlines screamed about the groom who exposed his parents on live TV, the boat, the stolen fund, the wedding sabotage, and for the first time in my life, the story being told about me was mine. That's the end of today's story. Did things turn out the way you thought, or were there some surprises along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't joined the community yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always the first to catch new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.